Welcome to the lecture on crop selection. And the PowerPoint starts with an introduction to an older spreadsheet called World Production. And as a side note, if anybody finds a newer version that is so clean and concise as this, I would love it. But so far, I've only found lots of great bits and pieces and lots of great, more recent graphs and all kinds of stuff. But this this Excel spreadsheet, World Production, has just so much wealth of data in one spot that I'm sticking to it, even though it's old. Just for this lecture, it actually makes sense. So this is going back 95 to 2005. So like I said, it's old, 15, 16 years old with the data, 15 if you count that they're always at least about a year behind in world production data. And so you can see things in these tables on various tabs that are ranking the different countries, and the specific numbers don't really matter, which is why I don't care so much. When you're talking about crop selection, what am I going to grow? Well, you generally grow something that is doing well in your country, or your region of the country, or your specific microclimate within that region. You have to narrow it down. I'm in a specific spot. I'm not in the United States. I'm in Salinas. And I'm not just in Salinas, I'm in the Blanco of Salinas over past Nob Hill Foods, or I'm over off of River Road, or I'm down in Soledad. Uh, you're in a specific spot and you have to pick something that will grow well in that spot. But you also have to think about the big picture. Ag is always an international type of business, whether you feel it or not, whether you specifically in an ag operation deal directly with the international flavor of the industry. It is international. The supply in other countries impacts the prices just about everywhere, except in maybe local farmer market situations or something like that. Even there, there's some impact. So the data in here is something you don't have to worry about trying to memorize, but I think there's some really interesting trends. And so this is millions of C-weight or hundredweight. And so what do you see? Potatoes and tomatoes. What's at the top? China. And the United States appears on the list for both of them. What about lettuce? The United States number 2. What's China? Number 1. Onions. United States is right in the hunt, but China. Again, this has to do largely with size of the country, population of the country, and to a lesser extent, other factors. But certainly, there are things that trend very well in certain countries. And so we do have to look at this and realize China is an agricultural monster globally. And not only do they have a huge population to feed, but so too does India. And they're not on the top of these lists for most things. Cauliflower and broccoli, very popular in India, more so even than here in the United States. And so again, we're on the list. China's at the top of that list. So economically speaking, we do have to think about this, and some things it matters more than others. Things like wheat and corn and other highly transportable commodity crops like that really have a global impact that is felt for a long distance and um, a long time, depending on what's going on with weather and what's going on with the economies in different countries, etc. Other crops, cherries, apricots, not so much at all. um, they don't travel very far. Uh, strawberries, you know, you've got to get them to market quickly. And there is some high priced export for cherries and apricots and strawberries to Japan, for example. I used to work for a company. We had a program that our wholesale cost was about $1 per berry for strawberries that we shipped to Japan. I have no idea what the retail price was or even what the consumer paid on the other side. Now, yeah, we were in charge of a lot of costs to get them there. We were in charge of transportation and fumigation and all kinds of things that the strawberries had to go through. So it cost us a lot of money to send them. But still, how much of that can you do? Not a lot. And because certain commodities, raspberries, I guess is another one, don't travel well, um, they don't have as broad of an impact globally. But again, everything on this page, number one, China. And I think that's one of the takeaways. And the United States is generally on every single one of those lists. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can go through yourself and look through some other types of commodities and different data. There's lots and lots and lots of data that are on these lists. Just take a peek, see what kinds of things that you see. I think the takeaway numbers are quite fascinating. The one thing that I do want to point out, which is, I guess, no surprise if you've been around long enough in the ag world, but if I look specifically at one item, zoom, artichokes. China's not number one. Italy loves their artichokes. It is a very interesting type of a food, and some countries love it, some countries, and I think you can understand why. You know, spiny flower. Why would somebody want to eat some weird spiny flower? I love artichokes, but I can see why maybe they didn't catch on in China as a major commodity there. So that's all I wanted to point out. I think there's a lot of great data, and I will challenge you as a class. If anybody wants to get a little bit of a really nice brownie point, if you can find a recent compilation of world data like this, and even if it's not Excel, if it's tables and charts and graphs in a PDF file or whatever, show it to me. Let me know. I'm still looking. So, global production. So before I get into the next part, I'll leave that as a separate standalone introductory section of this lecture. I'll be right back.